700 years in the future, humans are at war with an alien race named the Arachnids, or bugs for short. From their homeworld of Klendathu, located on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy, plasma bugs launch their spores into space, knocking meteorites into Earth. The Global Federation of Earth has defended the planet from these attacks and has begun its invasion on the planet they call Big K. It's an ugly planet, a bug planet, and within minutes of a reporter dropping in with the 6th Mobile Infantry Division, he is snatched up by a warrior caste of bug. The troops have dropped into an ambush and retreat back to their shuttles, as both the cameraman and the squad's commander are brought down by the swarm. 1 year earlier, Buenos Aires high school students Johnny Rico and his girlfriend Carmen are about to graduate. His teacher Gene Raskzak is a veteran of the first bug war several years earlier and educates his students on joining the military, which is the only way anyone can become a citizen of Earth in this time and be allowed to vote. Carmen is academically inclined and plans on becoming a pilot for the Federation, while Rico lacks in the brain department and is only looking to serve in the military to stay closer to his girlfriend. Some humans like Carl have evolved to possess psychic abilities and can read people's minds, as well as make lesser beings do their bidding by implanting false thoughts into their heads. Though he says he doesn't have to read Dizzy's mind to tell that she likes Rico. The couple go to their next class where they dissect a working bug called an Archelian sand beetle, but Carmen lacks the same nerves as Rico and brings her lunch back up. Carl runs Rico through the guess the card trick to test his level of psychic ability, but not only does he lack any, he also doesn't get a single guess right. Rico captains the Tigers in a modified version of gridiron called Jump Ball, while their rivals the Giants are led by aspiring pilot Xander. Despite Rico getting distracted by Carmen's presence, and jealous at Xander talking to her, the Tigers still get the victory and Rico still gets the girl. That night at the school dance, Rico asks his teacher's opinion on enlisting, but Mr. Raskzak just tells him that figuring things out for ourselves is the only real freedom anyone has. The next morning the three best friends apply for the academy in their respective areas, where Carl gets assigned to military intelligence for his big brain and will soon be the other's superior. Rico is then made nervous by the one-armed no-legged office worker who says that the infantry's what made him the man he is today. The three make a vow that despite being light years away and probably never seeing each other again, they will always be friends. Back at home, Rico's father is mad at him for enlisting as he was meant to go to Harvard, then tells him that he is cut off as Rico walks out. He heads down to the station wearing everything he owns to see Carmen off, who says she has no clue where she will be stationed before getting on a transport and leaving. On his first day at boot camp, Rico and the rest of the new recruits are drilled by Sergeant Zim, who brutally snaps one of their arms to make himself known. Dizzy has requested a transfer to the unit hearing that it was the toughest, but is possibly there just for Rico. The rookies consist of Katrina, who joined because it's easier to get a license for a child if you're a citizen, Breckenridge the farmer, whose arm is in a mini back-to-tank healing, Kitten who wants to be a writer, Jana who plans on getting into politics, Ace is a future Sky Marshal, and Shu Jimmy, who dreams of going to Harvard but unlike Rico his parents can't afford it. Over the next few weeks, Rico is mad at Dizzy assuming that she had no other reason but him to join the infantry, but she is consistently showing them up with her abilities. Rico sends messages to his girlfriend on the other side of the galaxy, who is now a pilot trainee and learning to fly a massive Roger Young-type spaceship, captained by De La Gere. Xander is now an assistant instructor and coincidentally is Carmen's trainer, as she detaches from the dock and nearly kills them all on her first departure, before putting the ship into warp speed and taking off towards Jupiter's orbit. 3 weeks later and Carmen is already rerouting the ship to more optimized courses, and effectively avoids a meteorite launched by the bugs with only damage to communications. Back at the academy, the rookies are competing against one another in a game of laser tag, but Rico and Dizzy use their high school jump ball plays to easily outmaneuver the opposition, winning their game and impressing Zim enough to make Rico team leader, though he owes it to Dizzy. He receives a message from Carmen saying that she is so happy she is considering going career, leaving no time for the two of them. The next day during a live fire exercise, Breckenridge is having trouble with his helmet so his team leader tells him to take it off, resulting in Jana accidentally killing Breckenridge with a misfire. Due to this Jana is discharged from the squad and Rico put on trial. Since they have already lost 2 recruits from the event and with Rico being top of his class, they choose administrative punishment instead of revoking his citizenship. Zim gives Rico a piece of wood to bite down on and they begin to administer 10 lashes. Having only ever joined to be closer to Carmen, Rico plans to return home to his parents, who are happy about the good news. The video transmission between them is suddenly interrupted, and the whole academy is alerted that the bugs have directed an asteroid that hit Earth. Due to having no communications left on board the Roger Young, De La Gere was unable to contact the lunar defenses and the planet was hit, killing Rico's parents and 10 million other residents. Zim begs to be allowed to fight but is told that the only way he will see action is if he demotes himself. But when the commanding officer hears that Rico's whole family lived in Ground Zero, he is unquestionably allowed to rejoin. The Federation Sky Marshal declares war on the Bug Nation and the troops mount a large-scale invasion of the Big K. Before descending down to the planet, Rico runs into Carmen and they talk about their parents. Xander walks over and insults the mobile infantry, so a fight breaks out between him and Rico. After the two sides breaks their boys up, Rico and his squad get tattoos, before being sent down to the planet's surface and drop ships by the thousands. Having expected some light scatterings of plasma, suddenly a surface-to-space barrage of spores begin to hit the cruisers, having been premeditated and planned. The offensive is a massive disaster and much of the fleet in space are either destroyed or badly damaged, including Carmen and the Roger Young, who take one to the face. The mobile infantry pours out onto the surface but is cut off from any air support or radio contact. They reach the first set of artillery bugs, launching their plasma into space and use a missile to explode them. Due to underestimating their foes' combat abilities and the sheer numbers, the Federation troops begin to get overcome by swarms of thousands of bug warriors. Shu Jimi is torn apart, causing Katrina to retreat ahead of the group in terror, until falling into a bug tunnel and being dragged away. We catch up to the beginning of the film where the reporter is killed as they flee back to the shuttles. Kitten is caught up to and savaged by a warrior, before the cameraman trying to get a good angle, and Rico, who returned to save his friend. Over 308,000 troops are killed in a 1-hour battle, with only a handful of injured returning. The Sky Marshal resigns, and the new one implements the idea that it would be a good idea to first know your enemy. Federation scientists speculate a caste of brain bugs that serve as generals for the arachnids. The Roger Young managed to survive the barrage and makes it back to the Ticonderoga battle station with the remaining fleet. Carmen looks up Rico's name on a computer to see that most of his squad was wiped out, and that Johnny was killed in action. Over in a back-to-tank, Rico heals his wounds while his friends laugh the glitch off as he is very much alive. Johnny, Dizzy, and Ace are reassigned to a special unit of mobile infantry which has killed more bugs than anyone else, called the Roughnecks. Rico is gunning for Sugar Watkins' place as captain of the team, while Ace is smacked in the face by Birdie for insulting the squad's lieutenant, who turns out to be Mr. Raskzak, having been brought out of retirement to lead them. Raskzak's Roughnecks are tasked with clearing Big K's surrounding planets from any bug colonies, waiting until the fleet carpet bomb the surface before they land to mop up the remains. The Roughnecks easily round the bugs up for the kill as the numbers have been thinned, and nuke any bug holes they crawl out of. Just then a bug called a tanker bursts from the ground and spews flames all over Birdie, melting her arm before she can be saved. Rico uses a ledge to jump onto the tanker's back, boring a hole in its shell with his rifle before lobbing in a grenade. The tanker explodes, and Rico's skill in combat earns him a field promotion to corporal from his old teacher, which he in turn uses to make Dizzy the squad leader. That night Lieutenant Raskak pulls out the entertainment and the Roughnecks party, during which Rico initially turns down Dizzy's advances. So the lieutenant gives Rico the advice that he so desperately needs and tells him to never pass up a good thing, and the two crazy kids spend the night together. The next day the Roughnecks are assigned to investigate an outpost on Planet P. While traversing its surface, the sergeant tries to get a signal when he is snatched up by a hopper bug and devoured. The lieutenant puts him out of his misery and tells his squad he expects them to do the same for him, then promotes Rico again. Sergeant Rico leads the team into the outpost to find the entire garrison killed with no signs of who sent the distress signal. They search the building to learn that the bugs tunneled through underneath, and have sucked out the brains of some of the dead troopers. The team then find a terrified general hiding in a locker named Owen. He thanks the Roughnecks while Dizzy attempts to use the building's radio to contact Battle Group. Suddenly Owen begins rambling about the existence of a bug leader responsible for the massacre and gets hysterical, so the lieutenant punches him, and even attempts to shoot the traumatized man if it wasn't for Rico restraining him. Just then Watkins alerts them to bugs, thousands of bugs, all swarming the outpost at once. The squad fire on the attackers while using the outpost's turrets, until eventually a hopper makes it past the walls and kills Owen. As the pile of dead warrior bugs begin to create a ramp, Rico gets through to command and orders a dropship to save them. They hold them off until it lands, but a crater begins to open beneath them and the lieutenant has his legs removed, so Rico does what his teacher taught him and ends his suffering. A tanker bursts from the ground having burrowed its way through, but Dizzy makes quick work with a Rico special to the mouth. As she turns around in glee, a warrior bug punctures her multiple times before the squad can bring it down. Two poor no-names are melted by a tanker as the shuttle evacuates at just the right time. Xander and Carmen are the pilots, having been the only two crazy enough to attempt the rescue. Carmen is shocked to see Rico alive, but he just issues an order and walks away as he is now the acting lieutenant. Dizzy dies in his arms talking about the night they spent together, and they hold a funeral for her and the rest of the team. Afterwards, Johnny and Carmen are joined by Carl, now a high-ranking colonel in military intelligence. Carl admits that the Roughnecks had been used as bait to test a theory of a brain bug on the planet, a theory that proved correct by the bug behavior. He assigns the Roughnecks to search for it and gives his old friend permanent command. Down on the surface of the planet, the veterans meet the new batch of fresh meat and introduce them to Rico's Roughnecks. The team moves out as the fleet above them in space is once again fired upon with plasma, but this time the Roger Young is hit direct center. As the ship splits in half, the crew attempts to evacuate, but Captain Delager is trapped under a closing door and goes out the way her ship did. Carmen and Xander manage to evacuate in an escape pod down to the planet, but it crashes deep inside a cave system beneath a mountain. Johnny learns of Carmen's situation over the radio but hears them get swarmed by the bugs. He tells his squad to keep scouring the caves in search of the brain bug while Ace and Sugar volunteer to join him in searching for Carmen, despite it being a hangable offense and Rico being the only one thinking she is still alive. He is right though, as Carmen and Xander are being held captive by the warrior bugs until the brain of the operation arrives. The general bug then sucks the brains directly from Xander's head, but when it turns to do the same to Carmen, she slices its sucker from its face. Suddenly the rescue team walk in with Rico holding a mini nuclear warhead and the bugs stop. Knowing its life is in danger, the brain bug crawls away while the warriors pounce as soon as it gets to safety. Watkins is mortally wounded and takes the nuke from Rico, sacrificing himself to hold off the creatures as the rest get away. The nuke blows, and Rico, Ace, and Carmen arrive on the surface to see that the battle for the planet has ended. Former Sergeant Zim has captured the brain bug with his team, having had himself demoted to private just to take part in combat. Carl approaches the bug and uses all the strength in his psychic mind to tell that the quivering creature is in fact scared. The three military heroes reconnect, and Carl explains that with study of the creature they will soon be able to turn the tide of the war, and that he was the one who telepathically told Rico that Carmen was still alive. Carmen is given captaincy of her own ship, while Rico and Ace serve as heroes to the new generation of Roughnecks. And the movie ends, as the war rages on. So you made it. I appreciate your time. I couldn't have done it without you. Tell your mother I said thanks.